Welcome to Infiniti Strings. In this series, we'll be taking a closer look at our quality assurance process. Every instrument is inspected and set up carefully by our luthier who has over 30 years of violin making experience. In this video, Jeff will be shaping and installing the nut on a violin. He begins by filing the top of the fingerboard and peg box to set a smooth foundation for the nut. Then he applies superglue to the fresh wood and fastens the nut. This is extremely fast curing glue, and even after applying a small amount of pressure, the nut is set enough to be shaped right away. The first step of shaping is heavy chiseling. Jeffrey's years of experience are really shown during these steps. One wrong move and he can ruin the nut and be forced to start all over. Every pass with the chisel brings the nut closer to its designated height, which is a standard across all of our violins. Personally, I still can't believe Jeff's accuracy during this process. Very carefully, he chisels the sides of the nut to match the width of the neck and the fingerboard. Almost magically, after a matter of minutes, Jeff has whittled down a square piece of ebony to the rough shape of a violin nut. The next step in this process is filing. Jeff starts with a larger, rougher file. There's still lots of ebony to remove before the nut is at the correct size. This is when it really starts to show its roundness and contour. A quick measurement check to tell him how much more wood needs to be removed. Jeff may be moving quite fast, but he is not rushing. He has filed the nut so skillfully that it almost appears to be polished already. Jeff sharpens a scraping tool and proceeds to scrape all of the outside edges of the nut. Additionally, he scrapes the sides of the fingerboard to further blend the nut in with the other ebony wood. It looks finished, but Jeff hasn't even begun sanding. He continues to do some finer filing with a more strategic tool. The contour and the roundness of the nut is really beginning to show. One last scrape. Now, Jeff repeats generally the same process with sandpaper. Now on to a finer grit paper. The ebony is now so smooth you can barely hear any scraping from the grit of the sandpaper. The first step in cutting the string slots is measuring the width of the string span and making an indent into the nut. Next, Jeff sets the measurement of the string width. These measurements are a standard. He leaves 2 more indents. Using a very sharp blade, he starts the indent line. Then he proceeds to file the string slots. Then, with an even thinner file, he widens the string slots. A final sand to remove any excess wood burls. He lubricates the string slots with pencil lead. Final measurements. Our string spacing, nut width, and nut height are all standard. Not to mention the E string sits much lower than the G string, so the nut ever so gradually gets lower from the left to the right. Jeff accomplishes these measurements easily as he's done this thousands of times. Lastly, Jeff reinstalls the pegs and strings the violin. The nut on a violin is what holds your strings in place. If incorrectly set up, it can lead to all kinds of problems. Stay tuned for the next episode in our quality assurance video series. We'll be doing fingerboard setup next. You can find more information at infinitistrings.com, and remember to like and subscribe for more.